Hello, LEGO fans. I am making another video. This is actually the second time I've shot this particular video because the first cut I might have come off a little aggressive, if I'm honest, and I didn't really mean for it to come out that way. I was just pretty irritated about something that keeps getting perpetuated by multiple LEGO influencers. I've seen it a time or two. But most importantly, I was talking to someone about these FlexTrack. And I was in a Discord call with him, and we were talking about FlexTrack, and he was like, yeah, I really haven't gotten into FlexTrack because a couple years ago I watched a YouTuber who made a video saying that they were terrible, that they sounded bad, they didn't work well for curves, they caused derails, and he's like, I just didn't want to deal with that. And it took me a second, and I was like, that's... They said that? And he's like, yeah, they also said you can't attach them to base plates. There's no way to attach them to anything. And I was like, is this a prominent YouTuber? Was this a small person? He's like, oh, it's a fairly prominent YouTuber. And I found out who it is. It's freaking Brixie. And it's this video. LEGO FlexTrack Hacks. This video, in many aspects, has some good tips. And we'll get into those. But I am going to air a few grievances about this video right out of the gate. And this is what made the last cut seem a little aggressive. But really, I think that it was just highly misrepresenting FlexTrack with a few facts that maybe he just doesn't know that you can do it. Although it shows him here literally doing what I'm about to explain. One of the very first things he said... and this is all in the intro, so I'm kind of going to go over them in the order that I think that they're relevant, and in kind of an egregiousness. The first thing he said is that they sound terrible. Okay, first of all, if you want your entire railroad to be perfectly silent, smooth, low-speed trains, that's all you. But that is a highly subjective thing to say. He should have said that he thought personally that they don't sound good. He's trying to make it like an objective fact that they sound bad, when in reality they're great for bridges to simulate that sound, as well as they're just good for bridges, period, because there's no holes through it, really. Additionally, I like some variants on my layouts. I have this up here. I have some 3D printed pieces, and they're not perfect, so they make some sound, and they sound a little different. They're also made of a different material, obviously. Any Tricks Bricks users is going to tell you that they can sometimes sound a little bit like crap and a little bit tinny. If you're not into that, you're not into that. But to say that they sound terrible, or they sound bad, or they sound like crap, honestly, just don't use them then. That's on you. Don't use them. Go buy Tricks Bricks or something custom, and just don't ever use these. Because if you're going to tell me that you don't like the sound of them, then don't use them. Okay, so that's number one, and that's kind of subjective. That's a little bit of a, it's like a pesky little issue. That's nitpicking on my part. The next most egregious thing he said is that you cannot attach them to base plates. Huh? So I guess these 1x8s, those aren't attachment points, apparently. I don't know what to tell you. Even though 1x8 fits in there, apparently you just can't use them for that, he thinks. Cool. Also, all these little round 1x1s, I've personally used these to attach flex plates, or FlexTrack pieces. I call them flex plates, I don't know why. FlexTrack pieces to base plates and other plates and other layout pieces before. You can attach it. That's literally what those are for. Sure, it's more difficult. Sure, you might have to use flex piece here and then some tiles to support, and then a stud here and then some tiles to support, and then a stud here, and there'll be a stud in an odd place over here. But that's just part of building. If you don't understand that concept by now, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know how he's gotten to 424K subscribers. Don't know how many he had at the time of the video without realizing that. And it's really something he should go back and correct if he now knows better. I don't know. Also, there are now custom solutions from Trick Bricks and 40 Bricks, I think. Both make it. Don't quote me on that. Might have the wrong companies, but there are other third-party ways of attaching them fairly easily. Completely bunk. Okay? The very next thing he said, which is, this is where I got really irritated, is where he's like, you really shouldn't use them on curves because they derail trains. Huh? For those of you that know, this is my high-speed passenger train that is modified with a 9.6 volt nominal voltage, so it's usually a little bit higher when it's done charging. Nickel metal hydride battery pack, as seen here. Don't worry about the rest of it. We'll cover that in a different video. It goes around that curve, which is, in many spots, a lot of this. It's a lot of flex track. I don't know where he got this notion. I honestly haven't seen a train derail more, unless you're doing a really hard curve, or you're doing like a hard jut at the wrong place where it's like most of it's straight and then it's just like kinked over. Like sure, if you hit that at full speed, yeah. But I mean, you could say the same thing about switch tracks. If I run this train full speed, it can't get around a normal R40 curve. It just can't. It's too fast for it. Even if it's stock form, I can put a stock battery box in this thing and it will derail around a normal curve. It's a speed thing. I don't know where he's getting that from. If anything, I've had experiences where the fact that it's a double track, the fact that there's a little bit more space here and that it's a little bit more, let's call it loose in tolerances with the conical wheels on a train, I have it to where it actually re-rails things. Actually, right down there at the end of that switch, I have one. Why? Because I'm an idiot and tend to derail things by switching things too quickly. And I could just drag a car across there and it'll re-rail probably 6 out of 10 times. So again, no idea where he got this blatantly false, grandiose statement that it causes trains to derail. Sure, in some scenarios, maybe, but I mean, that's literally any piece. That's like saying, oh, don't get R40s, they're bad. The train derails when you're at full speed. Like, again, I'm trying not to be too inflammatory, but it was just a really dumb statement for him to make. He should know better. And again, it's 4 years old. Maybe he needs to go back and correct it. Maybe he didn't know back then. I don't know, but it's a pretty dumb thing to say. And then the last thing I'll say is his hacks are great. Yeah, he's talking about extending a curve to increase the radius, which is what he's doing there, or not what he's doing there, but he does show in the video, with the flex tracks, which is great. Awesome. And he did one where he's like doing like a rail yard with a switch where it kicks out the switch a little bit more to create a rail yard that's a little bit further away. Most people have the opposite problem. They want it to be tighter. That's why Tricks Bricks has their wise, and that's why there's a little mod where you can cut it and then replace it. It's a whole thing. Most people want it tighter, but it's still a good mod. It'll come in handy in some layouts. But most of his other mods are basically just, hey, make it a straight piece or whatever. But what really irritates me is that he's like, oh, they're bad for curves, it causes derail, blah, 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 blah. And then the first hack he does is using it in a curve. Does it cause derails or does it not, my guy? Again, just bad information. I just don't think he thought it through. Maybe this was just like a crap video. He threw up his filler. I don't know. I don't know his history. I'm not a Brixie fan. I know hardly anything about him. This is just like my first initial reaction to it. But all those are great. They're all, pretty, honestly, fairly basic, like, no-brainer, you've played with Flex Track for 5 minutes kind of hacks, right? But what's really crazy, and it's even mentioned in the comments several times, is the first thing I thought is he skipped the biggest Flex Track hack. And that is banked curves. Yes, Flex Tracks will take a banked curve fairly well. And the longer the curve is, the more banked you can make it. Up to 2 or 3 bricks if you know what you're doing. Yeah, even just a little one by one brick curve adds that just a degree or two, and it makes a huge difference. I've had trains go around this much faster than I have a normal R40, even in an R40 configuration. It's slightly modified. It's not actually R40, but it's very, very close. But I had great success. So, and it's kind of like opposes as it causes derails, right? Because if it causes derails, he should not recommend you use it in turns, and that's the first thing he did. And then he also said they sound like crap, but then his rail yard is filled with them being used as straight pieces in places where it'd be super annoying. So I don't get it. Maybe it's his style, maybe it's satire, maybe I don't know. I don't know. But I think this is a huge opportunity missed right here. And if people are not aware, which, I mean, they should be, again, like, even this is fairly basic, like, people should know that you could do banked curves with Flex Track, and that's a great asset on it. There's a number of other things you could do. Oh, here's another thing he didn't mention that is a huge benefit to Flex Track versus, normal pieces. Everyone knows about these attachment points, right? These countersunk holes where you can sink a screw through them to secure them to a table or a layout. There's these ones here that are used for stacking them or whatever. But this is an attachment point. This is so you can screw it down, as far as I know. I have not seen any other explanation for it. I know it's almost exclusively what it's used for in my experience, in the layouts that I've seen, especially in places like doctor's offices and stuff where you don't want people picking up the train, especially whenever it's mounted on a board that goes on a wall or hanging from the ceiling. Flex Track is all mounting holes. So in addition to the you can't attach it to anything, okay, that's fine. Let's pretend like you are incapable of understanding what one by one like little plates are, and you don't use base plates like I don't, and I don't just because I'm being cheap about it. This is a fairly new table, a fairly new setup. You could screw it in even on a bank turn in like so many places, or if you have some kind of like weird kink in your yard or something, screw, never gonna move, never gonna go out of place. You don't have to worry about like weird angles or connecting it here. Like, you could just screw it in place if you have that style of layout, or you're willing to drill holes through your base plate, which some people are, some people aren't. I get both sides of that, totally understandable. But I just wanted to cover this. The first take of this sounded pretty inflammatory, and I might have gotten a little heated in this one a little bit too, but it's just bad information, and I really want people to understand that Flex Track is not bad. I hope this helps people, especially the guy I was talking to. You know who you are. I hope you try Flex Track, and I hope you find some creative solutions, because honestly, they are absolutely a great part of the stock Lego system. If you guys have any other suggestions for videos, let me know. And also, tell me, do you think that Flex Track is bad? Do you have experiences with derailing? I know I don't, but maybe someone else does. And what do you think of the sound? Because apparently it's controversial. Some people like it because it adds variance, especially for bridges and stuff. And some people, apparently, like Brixie, thinks it's bad. Also, Brixie, if you see this, hit me up. Let's have a discussion about it. I'd rather see it that way. I'd rather see the logic behind it. Maybe you have a better explanation. Obviously, I am a nobody creator. I have no subscribers, no anything. But, I'm trying to get into the LEGO community a little bit more, especially trains. Been pretty hesitant previously to reach out and do the social part of it. But I just kind of feel like it's time. I don't know if I'm going to be full-blown, full-time, LEGO train YouTuber. But, I'll try to do some more content, especially as I'm working on this layout right now. It gives me something to focus on. But yeah, other than that, you guys have a good day. Good luck, and have fun with your Flex Track. Also, cat.